OSI model, Open System Interconnection Model. The OSI model is a framework that describes how computers communicate with each other throughout the globe. It also allows different IT professionals to communicate with each other so they can understand exactly what's going on. So in this video, I'm going to describe what goes on at each of the 7 layers of the OSI model. It shows different protocols at each layer to give you a better understanding of the OSI model. 7 layers of the OSI model are application, presentation, session, transport, network, data link, and physical layer. Layer 7 through 5 is the upper layer, also known as the application layers. Layer 4 through 1 is the lower layer, also known as the hardware layer. And layer 4 is often called the heartbeat, which connects the upper layer with the lower layer. And the way people memorize the OSI model is through a sentence that says, all people seem to need data processing. And if you look at the first letter of each one of these words, it correlates with the letters of the OSI model. All people seem to need data processing. In this slide, I popped the hood on each layer of the OSI model to show you the different protocols at each layer. And you can see on the physical layers, you got cabling, like a switch. You have also a switch. And layer 3, you have routers. So this slide pops the hood and show you what goes on at each layer. But in the next slide, I'm going to focus on each layer and give you a presentation on what's going on at each layer. Layer 7, the application layer. The application layer actually shows what you see on the screen. So when you access Facebook, Dropbox, Google Chrome, or Gmail, there's protocols that's working in the background that allows you to access these applications and see these applications. It provides an interface for applications to access network services like email, file transfer, and just browsing the internet. Layer 6 is the presentation layer. And the way I describe the presentation layer is this translation. So if you, just like you need an interpreter to translate English to Spanish. So at this layer, if you receive, say for instance, if you receive some file.pdf, that has to be translated into a format that can be readable by your human eyes. Or if you receive a file.doc, it had to be transferred to something that can be read in Microsoft Word. Or if you see file.mp3, it has to be translated into something that can be heard by your human ears. The session layer. The way I describe the session layer is like when I access my bank. My bank application sits on the server back at the bank, and I have to be authenticated to access that. And once that session is closed out, my session is closed. But I have to be authorized and authenticated, and that's the session layer. Establish and maintains and terminate connections between computers, session management, authentication, authorization. Layer 4 is the transport layer. And the transport layer, I'm gonna hang around with the transport layer for a second. It ensures reliable and ordered delivery of data, managing flow control and error checking. So if you go to a website and you hit that website and you're downloading a lot of data, that data has to be broken down into segments. And those segments are put together once the far end computer received all the information. Or flow control. Say, for instance, you operating at 10 megabits per second on your laptop and you hit a server that's 100 megabits per second. There has to be a mechanism in place to let your server know to slow down so I can communicate with you. There's protocols that operate at this layer. You have TCP and UDP. TCP, Transmission Control Protocol. UDP, User Datagram Protocol. TCP versus UDP. So in this slide, I do a comparison of the two. So you can see the difference in the two. One is connected, one is connectionless. One is a state memory, one is stateless. One that has a byte stream, one has packet and datagrams. One is ordered data delivery, one is no sequence guaranteed. One is reliable, one is lossy. One is error-free, one is error packets or discarded. Handshake, no handshake. Flow control, no flow control. Relatively slow, relatively fast, point to point. So a lot of voice over IP uses UDP, but when you think about browsing the internet, email, they use TCP. Layer 4, like I said, I want to stay here for a minute because it operates and does a lot of different things. So it manages data streams. So your laptop can have you can be communicating in three different ways. You can be browsing the internet, you can be going to Gmail, and you can have a chat session going on Teams. And the way the address schemes work is well-known ports, which HTTP operates at port 80, SMTP operates at port 25, UDP operates at port 667. The network layer, layer 3, which is where your routers operate at and your IP address. Um, it's responsible for routing packets across the networks to determine the best path for data transmission. You have a 32-bit IP address, IPv4, and 4 octets. And you also have IPv6, which companies are starting to roll out IPv6, which is 128 bits represented by 8 hexadecimals. Your data link layer. Your data link layer handles reliable transfer of data frames between two nodes directly connected by a physical link. At your data link layer, there are data link protocols. You have the media access control protocol, which is your MAC address, which sits on your Ethernet card. And your MAC address is 48 bits represented by 12 hexadecimals. And your switches operate at layer 2. So the MAC address, the way to describe a MAC address is just like your home. Every home has a unique um, address, or you have like your social security number. Every person has a social security number, a number that's unique to them. Host on the network operates the same way. Physical layer, very important layer because before communication can happen, there's cabling that has to be put in place, and you have to have end-to-end connectivity. So there's electronic signals that goes through Ethernet, and those electronic signals have to make sure they're flowing on the Ethernet cable. Fiber, you have to make sure your fiber is operating okay. So to troubleshoot fiber, a lot of times you flash a red infrared light, and then you can see that light on the other end of the fiber. You make sure no interference with uh, your wireless on your laptop, and you're communicating with the APs. Make sure there's no interference, and that's your physical layer. Deals with physical medium of transmission like cables and signals. Uh, Builds a physical connection between devices to transport raw bits of ones and zeros. Thank you.